Hello, hello. How you doing? Hello, everybody. What's going on? How are you on this Friday? Happy. Hope everybody had a good day yesterday. For those of you in the States and all of that, with family and everything. I hope you're doing well. We are approaching another weekend, another big game for United away at Palace. Good to see you all here. Brandon, KF, Naveen, how we doing? Hope you are all well. What's going on today? So, yeah, there's a few things I want to talk about, but good to see you all. Just reheated leftovers, nice. Love you, Shao. Good to see you as well. Yeah, there's quite a few things I want to talk about. Obviously, one, we're going to talk about Palace, and we'll do our squad vote and all that kind of stuff at the end of the video. Talk about Palace. This is looking to be a difficult game with Matheus Cunha still out. Still seems like has a concussion, I would imagine. This is why he's not available. That would be the only reason, is if he's entered in concussion protocols, then that would explain that. Happy Black Friday to all consumers, to Americans like myself. So love the finance video. Hello, Marcus. Good to see you. Yeah, which kind of sucks. I mean, again, that means we're going into a game against Palace on Sunday with one new forward. That's it. That's the only difference in the outfield 11 beyond outfield 10. Sorry, excuse me. Beyond, of course, Senna Lamans in net. That's the only difference in there. But so that's rough. I think we're gonna miss Cunha, especially again against a team that is very likely to play a low block. But we will talk about that in a little bit later, because I want to cover some of the transfer stuff and all of that as well that has come out over the last few days. A lot of conflicting reports, a lot of conflicting stuff, which is fairly ordinary as we get into this time of year, especially given the chaos that we're likely to see in January, the bloodbath that could happen, as a lot of teams are potentially positioning to get deals done and look to do business. With the timing of the World Cup, January could serve to be even more important than usual, and a lot more clubs vying for players and positions, and agents looking to move, trying to get in position to play before the World Cup, trying to get their names out there. All sorts of things happening right now that are fairly chaotic, I would suggest, and certainly lead to quite a bit of conflicting reports on different subjects. So we'll talk about some of that, including Gomez, including Semenyo, including Elliot Anderson, and everything else. I think that's what we will get to first. So give me just a second. Also a little retweet. Transfers. All right, let's get into it. Okay. Sweet. We could go and spend the 70 million from Baleba money. Yes, we could. We absolutely could. We absolutely could. So let's talk about transfers and all of that first. Let's get into that. So we've obviously had a bit of conflicting reports. If we start with Elliot, not Elliot Anderson, with João Gomez, one that I've talked about quite a bit. Now, I'm very comfortable with what I have reported on João Gomez. Very comfortable. I am totally fine with what I have reported. I'm happy with it, and I'm confident in what I have stated on this front. Now, you're getting a little bit of conflicting reports out there about whether some people think that is true or it's different, and how it's being said. And I think it's important in looking at this to really narrow it down into what are we talking about here. Because on João Gomez, one of the things that has happened on this deal that is not true, right, is we've gotten these huge push for reports from Brazil and otherwise that there's already club-to-club talks, that it's advanced, that the deal is done. You know, we covered these, and I said, I don't know about that. I don't think that those things have happened as of yet. That huge push has resulted in quite a bit of pushback from the English clubs, including United and Wolves themselves, stating there is no deal right now, there is no discussions right now, and that there's nothing even being pursued at the moment in terms of the deal between the clubs right now. And that is all absolutely accurate. That is all totally accurate. It is completely true. We have not pulled the trigger on moving for a deal for João Gomez at this point in time, nor have we started club-to-club talks or anything like that, the same as it's been for the last week or so. However, I am very, very confident in stating that he is an opportunity and he is a player United are aware of, and they absolutely have had contact with his representatives. That's sort of what stirred up all of this. The question of whether they pursue it or not, right now, they're not. It's November 28th. A huge part of whether this deal happens or not is still fundamentally based on what happens with Wolves. So let's take two of the bigger reporters here and what they've said in the last 24 hours on this, okay? This is Fabrizio yesterday. João Gomez is one of the names under consideration at Manchester United. He's seen as an opportunity if Wolves decide to let him leave in January. He is not an absolute priority. He's very keen on joining United. And then Ornstein says, despite this, blah, blah, there is no truth in reports they are pursuing the 24-year-old midfielder. The Wolves deny knowledge of interest and insist club talks have not happened. That's totally true. But it also says if they look doomed to relegation come the winter window, there'd be a business case for selling such assets now than reduced price in the championship. So obviously you're getting a lot of conflict there. My suggestion on this, as to my best understanding of it, is as it's always been, it's an opportunity for United. It's something they're aware of. It's something they're thinking about, but it is not a situation that they have decided to push the button on or anything like that. And it's largely going to be determined by what happens with Wolves. Because if Wolves are not looking to cash in on their assets, they're going to be asking for something in the range of 60 to 70 million in terms of a price for João Gomez, which is not a price that United will pay for him. Should they be looking to end up in relegation, that will open the door for for moves to happen, and then United would be looking at making a decision as to whether to pursue a move for João Gomez. So it's all preemptive. It's all very, very, very preemptive in terms of discussion, but that's where we're at in November, exploring tons and tons of different options and things like that. Gomez could be an opportunity, could be available, but even then, it's an unknown as to yet whether he is an opportunity or not. So no, I'm very, very comfortable with the reporting that I have done on this in terms of what I believe to be accurate, and it's one we're just going to have to keep an eye on and see what's going to happen moving forward on that front. One that I still think is very, very interesting is Guehi. Now, I said a couple of weeks ago that it was not. If you recall, like I said, we've kind of passed the point where I particularly care too much about what other people say, and I have my own information, and I'm very happy with it. And is it always correct? No, but very often things that I'll say end up coming through in the end. And one of those is Mark Guehi. A few weeks ago, I said that it was certainly not at all a sure thing that he would be heading towards Liverpool. That this one was not something that was certainly nailed on, okay? And if we look at this, it says that whether they try again remains unclear. But even if they or other suitors do, any proposal would need to satisfy Palace and Guehi, which by no means guaranteed. They've sort of agreed that he will probably leave at the end of the season rather than January. But it does say here, any suggestion the switching to Anfield as a formality would be wide of the mark. The situation remains open, the competition fierce, and he will listen to all interested parties before making his decision. Now, again, we haven't been linked to it. And this is why I say the reporting is got to be, at this stage, a little bit chaotic. Because if you go through that entire list of players, you would think United are interested in 3. Baleba, Wharton, and Anderson. And that's it. You maybe Semenyo, right? You would think United are interested in the same players we've already known, that we have no lists, that we have no additional players that we're interested in, that we have no additional players that we're checking in on. And that's simply because, of course, when you're talking about that level of reporting and what they're doing with something like this, you know, and when it comes to United, a lot of people are pretty careful these days about what they say and wait until it's really concrete to report anything about United. And until then, say there's nothing in it. Wait until it's really concrete to report about United. I'm going to report things early, as I tend to. And that means I'm going to report on a number of names that will never come to anything. But the Guehi situation is certainly one I would still keep an eye on, because it is an open competition, because he's not for sure going to Liverpool, and because he fits very, very directly into what United need in the market in terms of a center back. One of the biggest problems that we have is, again, that we cannot play out of the back properly. We were discussing this, I think, in the live the other day, which is that, honestly, like, when you look at one of the big problems we have right now, when you take the midfield, I don't remember if we were discussing it on live or it was just in Discord, but we were talking about this, and it becomes really, really clear. When you look at the building of the squad, we're stuck with this midfield that we're stuck with this midfield that we have right now in Bruno and Casemiro, because they have the ability to progress the ball very well. And that is because we cannot progress the ball via the wide center backs as well as we can, and we don't have enough wing back options as much as we should, right? We lost a lot. You'll notice we lost a lot when Lisandro went down. Prior to Lisandro getting injured, we actually rarely ever... I could even find a quote from Ruben last year about Bruno. When Lisandro Martinez got injured, we moved Bruno deeper very often after that as a solution to the build-up problems, which he specifically spoke about, right? About you know, not being able to progress the ball out of the back, not being able to do all of that, getting Bruno deeper to assist with that. It's a compromise. When people talk about, you know, this is one of the changes that he made, is that we did not have center backs capable of progressing the ball to the level that we needed, especially after Lisandro went down injured last year. And that's what sort of started the domino effect of bringing Bruno deeper more regularly to get deeper on the ball and progress it forward. I don't think it's what he wants in the long term. It's not what he did at Sporting, and he's commented on it publicly on a few occasions about, again, very recently, about needing center backs to be able to progress the ball forward, you know, as a fundamental part of this whole setup and this whole system. That as the team evolves, we'll want the center backs dictating play more. 1 second. Let me try to find the quote on this, because I think it is actually kind of rather interesting. Here we go. I'll find the quote. Okay. You told us, capitalized us, the crime. The whole summer that midfield is not that important in Ruben's system. It's not. It's not. But it's about the context around that entire thing, not pithy one-line sentences, which is why I cover things on video. The midfield is not supposed to be. Look at it. You're still going. You told us the midfield doesn't matter. The midfield is not supposed to be. Listen, open your ears. Listen, open your ears. The midfield is not supposed to be the players dictating play. That is the whole point. The midfield is supposed to be the workhorses, but we've had to compromise on how it's supposed to be, simply because we do not have the players playing out of the back the way that we want them to be. I'll show you the quote here, okay? Here we go. So he says, I think he has more quality on the ball than he's showing, because he's still at a point where he doesn't want to make a mistake with the ball. When we reach a point, a very good point, our 3 center backs will control the tempo and quality of the game. So this is the whole thing that Ruben was talking about that he said after Tottenham and against Everton, I think he was proved exactly right on this point. Center back scared to play with the ball, center back scared to progress the ball, means that they're not the ones dictating the tempo and quality of the game. They're not at all. The passes between the lines from the center backs to the 10s, from the center backs to the wing backs is something that's not happening right now. Something that needs to happen and isn't. And until we can do that, we're stuck with essentially being ultra reliant on the midfield to progress the play, which is not the way that it's supposed to work, but it's about those are the only players we have that are capable of progressing the play from deeper. And that's why, we've gone with that so much instead of a more typical for Amorim workhorse style midfield with different qualities in and out of possession. It's a clear compromise, and it is, to me, one of the obvious downsides in this whole thing where we just don't have a finished piece in this, and we're still lacking, and why we definitely still need a center back out the back, why we very much miss Harry Maguire when he doesn't play, but why we also need to see a lot more bravery from guys like Lenny Yoro and De Ligt when they have the ball. They need to be more brave. The game against Everton was shocking in that respect in terms of how they dealt with the ball. So Guéhi, to me, is a player that I really do hope. Of course, he is on United's radar. Convincing him would be tough. There's a lot of players. There's a lot of players in that Palace side who, There's a lot of players. Got distracted by something. I don't know where I was going with that. Got totally thrown off there. But yeah, look, we need more players who can progress it, and Guéhi is a player who can do it. There's a lot of teams that are chasing Guéhi in that respect. There's a lot of teams that are chasing Guéhi in Europe, and that's why we need Europe. And when you look at a lot of this, of a lot of what's going on right now, a lot of the targets that we're looking at right now, we're gonna have to compete with big clubs for them. Like I said there's big clubs with interest in Guéhi. There's big clubs with interest in Guéhi. We're going to have to compete with them. Any of our top targets we're going to have to compete with. And again, that's why I feel it's so unbelievably important that United reinforce in January. Because you look at this right now, and you look at it without Šeško and Cunha, and you go, shit, like, what front three are we going to play? Xerxes and Mbumo and Mount? I'm sorry, that doesn't fill me with a ton of confidence right now. We need more options in the midfield. We need more options anywhere. The thing about where we're at right now is anywhere that we add options is going to help us. If we added a center back who could play with the ball in January, it will improve us drastically because it'll relieve the burden of progression off of the midfield, and maybe we can do more of it. If we add a midfielder with legs right now, it'll help us because we can win second balls and things like that more. If we add a wide attacker, it'll help us because it'll actually help us progress the play through both sides of the wide areas in the way that we want and give us more flexibility, more goal threat, and things like that. Any one of them will make an impact on the way this team wants to play because we're still making huge compromises. If we miss out on Europe, we're in trouble. For guys like Anderson, in trouble for guys like Guéhi, in trouble for guys like Semenyo. Not saying we even like top of the list right now, but I'm saying if we want to be in the conversation for some of the best players, we need Europe. And one of the reasons why, like you take one like Gomez, why would they not necessarily pull the trigger on that? What would be a reason, right? And this is where there's a fine balance that they have to be struck. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they were saying, part of the thing is that they want to make sure when they sign players that they think there's somebody that can be part of the title-winning squad. Not 11, but squad. Somebody who can be there for the title-winning team, right? That's the quality, the level that they want to sign players, of course. So you might have questions about like, okay, is Gomez that guy, or are there other midfielder targets that guy? Are they? But then you have to balance that with, we can't get those players if we're too shit this season. We can't get those players if we're too shit this season. Is Ederson or Gomez potentially your starting midfielder for a title-winning team? Probably not. But they're better than a lot of the options we have right now, and they'd make good squad players in the future. And we have an opportunity here. You know, we're 3 points off of Champions League, 1 point off of Europe. We don't need a lot in terms of an increase in quality to get us where we need to be. It would be really, really risky to just say, because if you miss, if it doesn't work, and you don't take one of these opportunities because they're not necessarily the title caliber player, if you don't get them and it doesn't work and you miss, then you're not getting your title caliber players and we're going backwards and we're just extending the timeline and taking too long. That is a worry to me. That is a concern to me. And that is something they cannot get wrong, right? And that's why I'm continuing here and talking about it, to put that pressure and say they need to do it. It doesn't matter if one of these players is necessarily a title caliber players. They can be a good squad player that helps us right now. Okay? And if those options are available, then it's something that we need to do right now that will help us. We just need a few more points. It's really not that much. When you look at the pace of what we're doing, we need a small bump. If you're telling me that an improved midfielder, you know, let's say we need a lot for titles, right? But we can't say that we need, you know, let's say this whole thing about, Casemiro, when he's on, when he's off, we're terrible, despite the fact that he's been on for a loss and a draw in the last 3 weeks, right? Let's say there was some truth in that we are worse without Casemiro because all alternatives in midfield are bad. Fine. So you can't tell me that one more midfielder, even if they're not even a starter, coming on when Casemiro can't play or when Casemiro is off to provide good defensive qualities, wouldn't have gained us 1 point this season, which would be enough to be in the European places right now. You know, you can't say that, right? Certainly more quality in the team right now, we'd have more points. No doubt about that. We have certainly, whatever anybody thinks, the quality of the team is at least in part a reason why we don't have all the points that we have. You can't say it's 100% the manager and the squad quality has nothing to do with where we are at. Even if you think it's 80% the manager, well, good. Maybe we'd have 2 or 3 more points with some better players. Maybe we'd have 2 or 3 more points with some better players. That's it. But that would be enough to get into Champions League this year with how crappy the league is at. With how crappy the league is and how difficult, and all of that, and how after those, again, we talked about this, like after those 4, well, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, after those 3, it's a crapshoot, and so the squad quality has to make a difference in that and has to give us, something, in this, it just has to help us get somewhere, because we just don't need much. We don't need much to get a few more points. So, that's the important part to me, and why it's so necessary to reinforce and to take advantage of these. I get that there's a bit of a concern, like don't waste money and don't buy players that are not like top and things like that. And that's all good, but we're still not out of that phase. You know what I'm saying? We still need more squad quality. Look at it today when you're talking about this Palace thing. The drop off after Sesko and Cunha is crazy.
Ugarte midfield could work.
I've heard the suggestion of Mazraoui in the midfield. I kind of like the idea of Mazraoui as a 6. I think, though, I would like Mazraoui to play as a center back, because as a wing back, Mazraoui, it doesn't have the pace and the final third qualities, right? But as a center back, he's quite good and quite aggressive in driving the ball forward, moving the play. He's a good ball player. I'd like to see him as a center back. I want our ball players to go to those wide center back areas, because Mazraoui is somebody, when I've seen him play at right center back, he's been progressing the play, making those difficult passes, evading pressure, carrying the ball forward, being aggressive. He's been that guy. Much more than Lenioro is as of yet. And I think it would help us play a lot better. You know, I'd like to see Ahmad wide and Mazraoui in the right center back, having that link up. I think that would help us a lot in terms of solving some of the problems that we've had, and then do something different in the midfield, you know, than Bruno Casemiro. That's one of the potential solutions, you know, that I have that I think we need to try. You know, to solve some of these problems. So I'd rather he be at center back with the game in front of him than in the midfield or something like that. So that's one of it. So, you know, Guéhi is a player that could be there, could be an opportunity, could be for summer, still should be a player we should be looking to sign. But the competition is going to be heavy on that front. Then there's Semenyo. And like I said, I'm comfortable with my reporting on all of this because 3 weeks ago when I said we're still interested in Semenyo, it's still an option. He's still a player that we like. There was reports flying around left and right that United had moved on. And I said, no, they are still interested in Semenyo. 3 weeks later, now we're getting confirmation of that United coveted him last summer and retain an admiration. I am concerned that Liverpool, there's a lot of noise about Liverpool getting this one close to locked up, given the release clause, but there's potentially some chaos. There's potentially some chaos abounding when it comes to Liverpool and their situation. Maybe that throws a wrench in the whole thing. Maybe that throws a spanner in the works. But United are definitely keeping an eye on the situation. Are they going to go for him? I don't know. But like I said before, they are interested. They do like him. They retain that liking. And I just have this feeling, or hope maybe it is, that they'll go for it at some point here soon, that they might push for it, especially as we get closer to January and all of that. And I think Semenyo would be huge right now. Again, when I look at our attack at the moment, I'm like, we have to be signing another forward. Because think about, again, this is where we talk about this long-term plan, getting back into Europe and all of that. Cool. Let's get back into Europe. Okay, but what if we are back into Europe? What if we are back into Europe? Look at our forwards. We need more forwards. We have to have more forwards. It's a joke if we don't get more forwards coming in. You know, it's a joke if we don't get more forwards coming in. I don't even know where to start if we don't get more forwards coming in. You know, anytime we're going to have to rotate, our forwards are going to be crap. Yeah, anytime we rotate, our forwards are going to be not so good at the moment. So we need it. We definitely need that. We definitely need that. We need more forwards. And he could play out wide as well. But again, we are also looking at wide attackers. We've talked about Njai. You know, and Semenyo obviously falls into a category of another, you know, wide attacker in that respect. So, one just to keep an eye on that if United get bold and brave and move forward. But it was like I was saying, when you look through all of this stuff, United aren't being credited with interest in practically anyone beyond the names we've already known. And so, you know, if you're trying to hear anything new about what United might end up doing in January, well, you're not getting it there. And then another one to
update, boss.
Well, we were just talking about that, Tubbs, but basically it's that, again, we are still interested in him. We are still looking at wider attackers. We are still considering that position, and I'm hoping United get bold and push forward here. I think there's a bit of a debate about this, you know, in general. But I'm really baffled. Whenever we're linked to players, you get a lot of pushback like, well, why do we need them? We already have this and that and everything. And then you look at our squad and you go, holy shit, It's weak. It's really shallow still. It can be changed pretty quickly because you want to make good players into squad players. So if you go buy 4 players, suddenly, you can make Semenyo or Cunha or Šeško can be a squad player. Good. Look at the squad players that City have had. Look at the squad players. Ekitike is Liverpool's striker right now. Look at the squad players that Chelsea have. Look at this. We need that. That's what we need to have, is players that we would consider being potentially good enough to be starters as squad players. That's what we need. So we have to go forward with that for sure. We have to push ahead on deals like that. So I'm hopeful because United retain an interest in them. And again, then the last one, not the last one, but the next one that's been finally people are confirming. Once again, like I said, I'm very comfortable with my reporting because this is another thing I told you all over a month ago, that Elliot Anderson was climbing up the list and is now our top target, and that there was concerns over Carlos Baleba that had pushed him down the table. This was over a month ago. I've been talking about this, maybe 6 weeks. Okay. Now we're getting confirmation from The Athletic and others that Elliot Anderson is, in fact, United's leading target in the midfield. He is very much, certainly 100% United's leading target in the midfield, is definitely a player that they are tracking and has definitely climbed up the list while Baleba has moved down it. Obviously, we know that the competition is going to be fierce, in that respect, and is going to be big. Obviously, Manchester City, today, there's a report that they're going to be looking to make a move for him, 80 to 100 million. Like we've been talking about, it's just one that we got to do. We just have to do it. We have to do it. No doubt about that. It's just a deal we've got to do. But again, how? If we don't have Champions League, if we don't have Europe, if we don't have these things, are we going to be able to beat Man City to these deals? I think we can beat City if we are showing progress as a club up in the right direction. I think we can beat virtually anybody. We don't have to be there to beat it. There's a lot of promising things that one can look at. If there's a good, strong upward trajectory of the club, then I think that United still has a massive draw for so many people. And it doesn't have to be Champions League or nothing. I think even Europa League could be okay. But that being said, the better we are, the bigger our chances are of competing for these players. And it's just more evidence to the fact, that we have to be in it, because clubs are going to be looking to lock these deals up early before the World Cup. We can't be floundering. We need such a strong showing from January to March where we approach these talks and we're like, we're in. We got you. Come and join us, We were able to convince Mbumo and Cunha after finishing 15th and Šeško, and that's fine. Because it's on the premise of, look, we're gutting the squad and we're rebuilding it and we want you to spearhead that rebuild. You can't keep having that conversation every year. Every year that recruitment, discussion doesn't work the same. It doesn't hit when you finish 15th and you say you're going to rebuild our team and then we finish 10th, That same discussion doesn't work the next year, because then it's like, are you sure? It's like boy who cried wolf. You can't keep convincing players that you're back. You can't keep convincing players that we're on our way to being back. You know what I mean? If we're not getting, if we haven't improved things and we aren't getting, better results and things like that. So just again, more evidence of why it would be so necessary to move in January. Now, there are other names on here that United are not credited with a direct interest in, but it says leading Premier League clubs and shit like that. One of them is Nico Schlotterbeck, right? Now, he's attracted Premier League interest. We know that this one is one where everybody would really look to him, that his contract runs until 2027. So if he doesn't agree an extension, he only has a year left next summer. This is one I would be, obviously, I think a lot of clubs have looked at. United have looked at him in the past. I think he'd make for an incredible left center back in the system. Talking about center backs who can control and progress play a bit. Here's another, and this is one I've hinted at a few times. Following this, there was actually a direct report today crediting United with an interest in Livramento, by the way. But again, City had him high on their radar, and he remains a target for leading Premier League clubs. Keep an eye on this one. This is one of the ones I was hinting at a little bit ago. Somebody asked a little earlier in the chat if one of them was there. This is one I would keep an eye on. I don't know if he's gettable. I don't know if he's attainable. I don't know much else about the situation. It's early, all of that. But he's a fullback, but for me would make a very, very perfect wide center back in this situation. He could play a number of positions though, but he is a very, 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 very good player in that respect. That of course United are interested in. Yeah, so that's one of the names there in terms of extra center backs, additional center backs that you might want to keep an eye on for the future. I'm just seeing if there was any of the other ones on here. Oh yeah, okay. Here's the confirmation that Elliot Anderson has emerged as the primary target, and Adam Wharton is also being looked at. So there's that confirmation finally. It's been a while, but finally we're getting confirmation of those being the major targets. And again, it's those being the major targets that are somewhat complicating the factor of, the names like these other names, other opportunity signings like João Gomez and Ederson and things like that, because, they're not the primary targets. In an ideal world, United would get 2 of Anderson, Wharton, Baleba. In an ideal world, that's what they would get, 2. Is that possible? No idea. And the problem is that if you pass up the opportunity to get somebody good in January, and this is part of the debate within United and the debate in terms of what should they do that's going around. Do you hold out in hopes you get Anderson and Wharton or Anderson and Baleba this summer? Because that would be the best situation. And those are your 2 guys, and that's where you save your midfield money for, and then you go spend elsewhere in wide attack and a center back to add to the team. Do you do that? Because it's a good plan A. But what if you don't make it to Champions League? What if you don't even make it to Europa League? What if your squad is so weakened? What if there's more injuries? What if there's things that happen and United don't get there? Well, then you've really screwed up, because now you're missing out potentially on all of them in terms of competition. I think it's very risky. I think it's really, really risky, and I think that's part of the debate. Like I've said before, I would be going for everybody. I would just go for 3 and just let everybody go. Don't be sentimental. Don't sit here telling me that anymore that it's a good idea to keep Casemiro. I mean, Bruno was on this thing as well about potentially leaving. Obviously, his future is completely unsettled, and part of me looks at that and says, if Bruno's not certain of staying, then what are we doing here? You know what I mean? If it's still up in the air about Bruno, and it's still up in the air about Kabi, and Casemiro is expiring, and Ugarte hasn't been impressive, then stop waiting. Don't sit around questioning it. Just get rid of all of them and go buy players. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at, because I'm very, if we're going to be serious about the rebuild, if we're going to be serious about moving forward, then let's stop pussyfooting around this shit. Let's stop sitting in these situations of maybe, I don't know, we'll see, could be, we have to wait, yada, yada. Let's just go. Let's just get work done. Sell one in January, bring Gomez in, bring Semenyo in, go to summer, sell another, bring another one in, let Casemiro go, get another one in. Just rebuild it. Don't sit on it. We cannot rebuild this team on a maybe. Nobody there has been convincing enough that they deserve to be a part of the future title-winning team. I'm sorry to say. Sentimentality aside, Casemiro, Maguire, Shaw, I like a lot of these players. Bruno, none of them you should be hanging your hat on if you have the opportunity to go and get better players. None. Absolutely none. There's no reason. There's nothing that they've done that would justify that as of this point in time. None of them. Much as I like a lot of them, and I think they're good players in there, none of them have done that. None of the players who've been around a long time have given you enough evidence to suggest that you should be putting off plans for potentially better players because you might keep them. Just move them on. Make the decision for all of them. Right now. Make the decision for all of them. The only one I could actually understand is Maguire on a cheap contract, simply because we need a lot of center backs and we don't know about Lissandro's injury, but he's also injured. So it's like, whatever, you know? What is that? That doesn't do much for us either. But no, I mean, you know, when I look at our financials, and what we can do, let's just stop, man. Let's stop half-assing this now. It's time to not half-ass this anymore. Right? Let's not half-ass this thing. We're not rebuilding for the future on a 34-year-old, a 33-year-old, and a 33-year-old. Let's move on. It's time to go. And it's not because they're bad players and it's nothing to do with it. But let's not half-ass the rebuild. What we did in summer, I think, was very good in that respect. A young striker, a young goalkeeper, to going into their prime age forwards. It's exactly the right idea. Getting young guys like Orozco, getting young guys like Leon, working on that age profile is great. Let's not half-ass it. Let's go forward. But what's the biggest risk to me right now, and what does worry me, and it scares me if they do this, if they think this way, or if they make a decision to go this way, what worries me very much is, what if? I get it. The whole plan, holding out for... Wharton's not joining us without Champions League. Okay? Wharton is one who very specifically seems to want Champions League, all right? What if we don't get Champions League? Are you hanging your hat that we can convince both Baleba and Anderson to join? Without it. And that we're skipping out on potentially opportunities in January for that. That's really, really risky. And the thing is, an opportunity in January doesn't have to stop you from making 2 deals in the summer, if you're ruthless with the guys in place. That worries me. Look, we're early. It's ahead of January. These discussions, these debates are all ongoing. You know what I mean? They're not committed one way or another on what is being done yet. The next few weeks could change quite a bit. I'm confident in the fact that we at least maintain interest in guys like Gomez, interest in guys like Ederson, interest in these ones. Even if we are not right now pursuing it, we will see. But a decision has to be made over the next 3-4 weeks, and they have to get it right. If they don't see the opportunity to get into Champions League, then we're in trouble. Baleba, I think, would join no matter what. And that's the worst option right now. We don't even know if he's going to be good. You know, we don't know if he's going to be good. And we don't know what Brighton are going to ask. We might be saying, fine, well, he hasn't been great. We still think he's a good talent, so we'll pay 60 million, and Brighton might just say no. 100 million, that's it. 90 million, that's it. They might. They might do that. We don't know. That's a huge, huge risk there, because that is far from a sure thing. So we must do something in January. We must do that, because that's how we're going to convince these guys to join. That's how we're going to make sure that we have the money and the ability for a good project. And I strongly believe, with even just one key reinforcement in January, that top 5 is very much on the cards for us. It's not a sure thing, but it's on the cards for us. And I think that as long as we're in that conversation, we'll be okay. As long as we're in that conversation, we'll be okay. And I'll be happy. So yeah, a lot that's we've covered there. Like I said with Gomez, I'm happy with what I reported on that. He is an opportunity. They are aware of his situation. They have spoken with his agent, but it has not moved forward beyond that, and there's no decision made yet to move forward beyond that. Ederson is somebody United have looked at on a number of occasions. As of yet, nothing has happened on that beyond his potential availability. Semenyo, the interest remains. Anderson, our top target. And Gahey not nailed on to Liverpool. But a lot of these guys, man, we're going to have to convince to join us. And it would be a good idea to do something in January to try and push us forward. Because if we look at our team and move on to the game against Palace, I'm struggling, man, to figure out what team I would field for this game that I would have any confidence in. If we had Cunha, if we had Šeško, I'd feel pretty good. I would feel pretty happy about what we could do. But we don't. I think there were huge misses against Everton, especially Cunha. Especially Cunha. If you look at the way that Palace play, obviously, they are the lowest pressing team in the league with 42% possession. They're going to sit deep. They're going to let us have the ball. You know what I mean? Even more than Everton. We've got to be able to unlock them. We've got to be able to unlock them. I do think, we lost 4-0 with a 4-2-3-1 against most of these players, I think, against Palace. Yeah, people forget that. I mean, Casemiro started in the midfield on that day. Was one of the most embarrassing performances I've seen. We were playing a 4 at the back. Different system, 4-2-3-1. Casemiro was there. So... Palace are going to attack us in transitions. And so a lot of this comes at a tough time because what do you have here is a team that's going to sit deep and let us have the ball. All right. So they're going to sit deep and let us have the ball. That means we have to have enough attackers. We have to have enough attackers on the pitch. One thing we have to do is play Ahmad out wide. Ahmad out wide. Mazraoui I would put in the right center back position. Ahmad out wide. Mazraoui in the right center back position. That has to happen. That's to me, we've got to get that done. We've got to get that done in there because obviously I think having Ahmad out wide, stretching the pitch from out wide, those things make a big difference, I think, in terms of attacking. They have every single time, especially in a game where we're going to need to have the ball and all of that. Other than that, I'd probably say I would try something different. We're going to have to defend against transitions with a lot of possession where we don't have to necessarily progress the ball from deep. So if we need to defend against transitions, I would probably put Ugarte and Mainoo in the midfield and push Bruno forward with the lack of options that we have. And I would play like Mbeumo at the 9 and Bruno and Mount in the 10s. Now, the game against Burnley, we created a ton of chances. And Cunha got injured early in that one. And we had Xerxes, Mount, and Mbeumo. And then I think Mount got injured too. But and we ended up at one point pushing Bruno forward a bit. Which I didn't actually like, though. I thought he was way worse forward because he drops out of the front line deep to quarterback it no matter where you put him on the pitch. I remember showing the images of that, and it was only for about a 10-minute stretch. We conceded twice in those 10 minutes. Bruno was in the front 3. We conceded twice in those 10 minutes. Because he dropped out of the front 3, we stopped occupying their back line, and it was a disaster. Then they flipped, and it got a lot better again. So I don't have the answers. I don't think Bruno in the 10 is the solution to a lot of things either, because he drops deep. And he doesn't run with the ball, and he doesn't occupy the back line anyway. So you're just losing a forward. You're just losing someone to occupy the forward areas. So I would probably still go with Xerxes, Mount, and Mbumo, I suppose. But then you know that Bruno's going to play, so then that means in your midfield, what are you going to do? Do you just go with... You go with Bruno and Menu, you have absolutely no pace for defending transitions. You go with Bruno and Ugarte, you have some ability to break up a play from in the midfield. Yeah, maybe Menu in the 10. Maybe Menu in the 10. Maybe that would work. I don't know. I don't have the answers right now, because like if it was up to me, I wouldn't play Bruno at all in this game, because but then again, you're trying to potentially break down a deep box. I don't know. I've got my ideas on it, but I think the minute we're trying to defend against transitions against the Palace team, you're saying that we're going to pay Casemiro next to Bruno to defend against transitions in a high press. Good luck. Casemiro, one yellow from suspension as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see good options here, you know? I don't see any good options here, and this is part of the frustration. This is why I'm like, let's just move on, you know? Let's just move on. It's so hard to figure out what's going to work because you have so many weaknesses. You have so many weaknesses in the choices you have to make in the middle to accommodate things, you know? You just have so many because we don't have legs. If you have legs in the middle, at the very least, you can defend and break up transitions and counters and things like that, and you're not so worried about it. But the fact that realize how stupid this is, okay? We're going to face a game state where we need to break down a deep box, so you need creativity. But we're also going to face counters, so you need to be able to have legs to break up play. And we have nobody who does both of those things in the team. None. Zero. So what do you sacrifice? Do you sacrifice the creativity or do you sacrifice the legs? Which one? Which one is more risky? If you play Ugarte and Bruno, maybe you get legs and creativity. Maybe. If you play Casemiro and Bruno, you have more creativity. You've got better set pieces to attack for Casemiro, but you have absolutely nothing in terms of legs defending deep. Do you go with Casemiro and Ugarte? Then you have legs, you have good coverage, a little bit of creativity, but then you're sticking Bruno in the front and you're going to lose that backline occupation. We have to make so many sacrifices with every decision. We have to make so many sacrifices with every decision. So maybe there's other answers. Maybe there's other answers to solving this. Maybe there's other things that can be done to kind of unlock the team. You know, this is why, you know, well, if we could pass the ball out the back more, that would be good. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know, man. That would help us too. Like when we had this situation last year, we had Lissandro playing ball at the back because he was helping us progress play like that. Exactly. Need ball playing center backs, and then we have the center mids be ball winners. Exactly. But we don't have that. And then I look at it and I go, well, what about Everton? Where's the consequences for the shit we saw against Everton? Where's the consequences for performance? Why do people keep getting away with that stuff? Because then I would factor that into my team selection and say there's absolutely no way that I'm letting people off the hook for that. But you're sacrificing so much in your team to do it. Let's look. I want to see what you guys think. I've imagined this week's team is going to be somewhat controversial in terms of what people select. You know, what people want. Who should play at striker? Do we go Xerxes? Do we go Mbumo? Or do we put someone like Bruno up front as like a false nine? What do we do? Who should play at striker? Do we put Mbumo up there and move like Bruno or play with 2 10s? Like, who should be at striker? Should it be Xerxes because he's the only option? I don't have, it's such a sacrifice either way, you know what I'm saying? Cheeto won't play. Guys, the thing about Cheeto is that he's not ready, and he wasn't even supposed to play last year, and they really want him to have time before coming back to the first team. There's no chance Cheeto will start in a game like this. I don't even think he'll be on the bench. I think he could be, but I think we'll bring in some other young players. You think we go with Xerxes again? Look, against Burnley, after the injury, Xerxes did quite well as a 9 in that game with Mbumo and others. So I guess Xerxes is like maybe the best of the bad options, but I don't know, man. It's tight right now in the vote between Xerxes and Bruno. It's tight. Yeah, it's tight. All right. So based on the vote, it's exactly even. I need like just click vote. A few more people, just click vote. You know, just click vote. Just a couple more people click vote, so that I'm gonna let it get to like 40 or something. The vote is weird. It keeps going up and then down. Just vote. Just vote. A few more people. Just click the vote button. Click one of the vote buttons. I'll end it in like a few votes. All right, there. All right, we got enough. We got enough votes. There's enough of a gap there. All right. So Xerxes. Well, there we go. We give Xerxes another chance. Thank you for that. Let's go with the. We know it's going to be right 10 is going to be Mbumo, so let's go left 10. Bruno, Mount. I guess we have to throw Ahmad as an option, even though. Please to. Oh wait. Let me hold on. Let me add one more option. Hold on. Forget that poll. One more option. Let's get Semenyo in the poll as well. Who should we play in the left 10? Mount plays. I think we would be fine. Mount's excellent knitting up play. Yeah. I just worry about our like actual goal scoring threats, you know, without Cunha especially. Yeah, Semenyo in tight spaces. Yeah, I could see that. Give it a couple more votes. It's a little tight here between Bruno and Mount. Couple more clicks and we'll end it on this vote. This one's it's you know what's hilarious is like 2 injuries. We've had easy votes for like 6 weeks now, 5 weeks now. A few injuries and 1 loss, and it's chaos. And it's chaos. It's absolutely chaos in terms of like trying to figure out who to play. And that just goes to show just how unsettled this team is. Ooh, Mount with a late lead with a few votes. Okay. All right, we hit 50, so we'll call it there. Okay. So we're going to go Mount. And Bumo. All right, let's go left wing back. Are people so fed up with that performance from Dorgu that they're saying that they'd go back to Dowlow? Left 10 for Mount. There you go. I'm putting Shaw in this vote, by the way, because if there was ever a game where I feel like it doesn't have to be up and down and we might just be able to have our left wing back settle in a little bit possession-wise, it might be this one. Maybe. So it might be a game for Shaw breaking down a deep block. My opinion on that. My opinion on that. All right, people are going with Dorgu still. Fair enough. Fair enough. People are going with Dorgu still. Fair. All right, let's go to the midfield then. I might have to do some other alternatives here. I don't know if these cover all the options. Let's go with left midfield. Let's do it. We're going to have to do it one at a time because there's a lot of potential choices here. We're going to go with either Bruno Menu or Ugarte for the left, since Casemiro is always on the right. Let's just do that. I'm personally be very disappointed if people keep voting for Bruno Casemiro. All for Dorgu, he's still a natural left footer with the engine. Sure. I can see an argument for anybody at this point right now. Like I said, a few injuries and a loss, and suddenly it's chaotic. Suddenly the choices here are chaos. You know what I mean? Like, who the hell do we play? Who do we pick? It's chaos, man. It's chaos. I'll give it a few more votes here. Vote for who you want at left midfield right now. We all know Emram still starts. Yeah, I know. We're gonna compromise somewhere for it, but he also has a good. Well, I don't know, man. I'm just. Like, I get it. Bruno still has the ability to create, but I'm just tired of what it costs as a team. And I think Everton was completely unacceptable as a performance from the captain. I just think that's unacceptable for me. I'm just tired of, like, the standards I think have to be held to the top. And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, player has great creativity, so he can do whatever he wants without consequence, and we'll sacrifice everything for it, because I think it's like one of those things, you know. That's my opinion. Still a thing I think Ruben's getting wrong is that he's not benching him ever in the Premier League. I just don't like it. Okay. So who's Kobbie Mainoo's partner? Am I saying Bruno needs dropping? Yes, 100%. He needs dropping. I don't understand. It's ridiculous that he can't be dropped. It's ridiculous to me. You know, if you look at the games that have bothered me the most, that personally have bothered me the most, I look at Fulham. Cost us that game. He's had too many of these games this year. Lost his head because the ref bumped him and missed a penalty. Cost us 2 points there. Lost his man. 2 points there. Against Brentford, missed his penalty again as well. Was playing crap all game. Lost us a point there. Against Everton, he was horrendous. One of the worst players. I mean, I think that he has cost us pretty directly on really significant occasions this year. On 3 or 4 games already. That's a fuck of a lot. And we're not getting the return back to justify that. We're just not, getting a return back to justify that kind of decision. That kind of, we're not getting the work rate or anything else. City as well. And then, I think he's been bad more than he's been good this season. He's had some really good moments. He had a couple really good stretches. But I think he's been bad more than good for the team at the club level this season. That's what I think. Votes kind of close here between Bruno and Casemiro for the second one. I'm surprised people are picking Casemiro in this game, but that's on you. All good. That's your opinion. All good. United results. It is, though. That's the thing, is that he's such a influential player, and that's to his credit. He's such an influential player that a good or bad performance from him will have an it has too much of an impact. You could even argue Arsenal. He made a shit pass back to Yoro that led to the corner that Arsenal scored from, and they'd done nothing that entire game against us. Nothing. Besides that one moment. There's a big argument to be made on this. Same with most players that struggle in this team. I disagree. Ahmad had a bad game, has had a couple bad games. We won. Ahmad had a bad game against Burnley. We won. Ahmad had a bad game against Chelsea. We won. And Mbumo had a tough start to the season. We still won some games. Now forward scoring goals is a little bit different and all that. Šeško's had some tough games where we still won. Cunha's had some not so great games where we still won. We pretty much a result can come down to, you will not find a good Bruno performance that we lost, and you will not find a bad Bruno performance that we've won. It's very intricately tied to each other. More than any other player on that team. And it's because he's that influential. He touches the ball the most. He'll get on the ball constantly. It was against Everton. He's gonna have the most touches in the team. It's not like some weird magic. He gets on the ball more than anybody. And he's in the midfield, which means out of possession, he needs to do work. He's had 0 tackles in like 2 games. Players' faults show more in a poorly assembled team. That's true too. That's true too. Fair enough. It is poorly assembled. But everything still runs through him, so it ends up being extremely tied together. This vote is very close. I'll give it a couple more seconds. A couple more votes if we get in here to see whether it'll be Ugarte or Casemiro here. Because it's literally 1 vote apart at the moment. So if you haven't, just vote. Just vote. Ugarte, Casemiro. They're tied. They're untied. They're tied. They're untied. There's a moment in that game, and if you look at the tactical breakdown, worse than to me anything else. And it was a moment I highlighted where it didn't hurt us, where Casemiro goes chasing after a player out to the touchline, and Bruno does too on Jimmy Garner. They both of our central midfielders go running out wide to chase one player and abandon the middle of the pitch. Why? It's insanity. It's insanity. It's so stupid. Like, it's so stupid that it, and you don't, when they don't hurt us, it's not noticeable, but those things happen so often that they tear us apart. Why can't we win second balls? Why are we, why is we losing possession? All of that. Why is that happening? Well, it's moments like that you don't see. And it was Dorg who was on him too. It was 3 against 1 on the side in our own half. Why did they both go chasing after the ball like that? If not for Shaw jumping up and forward 10 yards and reading it really well, because the pass made it through all of them. That's the worst part about it. They didn't even block the pass. It took a fourth player, Shaw, to defend against one guy in Jimmy Garner. Shocking stuff, man. Absolutely shocking stuff. 4 players. It took the fourth player to jump and make the interception, or we would have probably conceded at that point as well. I'm still heated over that. And I just, and the thing about it is that you can take my whole rant here on Bruno and stuff like that, and then he could go in and have a great game against Palace. And you know what it does for me? Nothing in terms of the long-term view. I'll say, great, good performance, good job, thank you, good win, because I've seen enough. We will not get that consistency, period. It's not going to happen, and it's not the future. I have zero faith in the consistency of that happening, next time that it's going to happen again. It's when we win games, if it's because, what would make me really, really happy? If we win a game and it doesn't involve Bruno. Because that will tell you it's like, it's not always going to be predicated on Bruno influentially, positive or negative. It's not even like, that's not even an anti-Bruno statement. It's just, it's a problem of this team. It cannot be a Bruno team. We can't keep doing this. He's not consistent enough at his age to be that guy. It's just the reality of it. All right, there and Mbeumo are 2 obvious, easy ones that we don't even have to discuss. Let's go left center back. Let's give you 3 options. And I'm not even saying, like, without Bruno, we're going to be a better side, right? Will we be worse right now than the games where Bruno's at his best? Probably. But will we be better than the games when Bruno's at his worst? Yes. Probably. I want a consistency in the team. I want a consistency. I want to know where we are. I want to see us performing at a certain level that gets elevated by players that are improved. I mean, take a look at the lineup we've selected so far, by the way. All right, minus maybe, people are going to say whatever about Ugarte and all that. But there's still players where you go, I'm not convinced they're bad players. You know what I mean? I want to see more of them. I want to see them growing. I want to see them developing. I still think Mount's been good this year and can get more consistent. Mbeumo, Ahmad, obviously. I think Dorgu we'll see. Mainu, we obviously want to see more of. Like, we can't. There's just a lot of players where it's not great. This isn't like a high-level team yet. No doubt about that. But we need to find that mark or we're never going to get anywhere. We need to find that level and move on forward. You know what I mean? We need to find that. Obviously, it would be better with Cunha and Šeško in this lineup. I feel a lot happier about it. We've been shit the few times we played without Bruno. It's been like twice though. Like it's sort of irrelevant, you know, because we're shit with Bruno half the time. So it's like you're flipping a coin and drawing a parallel between we're shit without Bruno. We've been shit so much anyway that like, is there even a correlation between the two things? You know, is there even a correlation between the two things, or is it just we were shit that day? You know, but it's also happened so little. I'm not surprised. We're so over reliant on one player that, like, of course, when he's not there, we miss him. Of course, when he's not there, certain things go awry. But you know what the best performance I can remember of the last 2 years was, ironically? You guys know? 3 years. 2 seasons, yes. Last season and the one before. You know what the best performance of the last 2 seasons was? Who can guess? And it's ironic given the game we have this weekend. The best performance of the last 2 seasons, what was it? Yes, Ten Hag's second season and last year as well, including both. There was one performance that was the best of them. And I'm not talking about like the big game, you know, huge win, you know, type of thing where it was like a crazy, like physical, competitive game. I'm talking like the most solid, best performance where you saw like you saw patterns, you saw a high level of passing and control and all of that. 3-0 Palace at home in the cup. No Bruno. Absolutely correct. 3-0 Palace at home in the cup. No Bruno. Barca away was the previous year. And I'm not saying that it's like, but what reason I'm saying that is that it's always stated like we're always bad without Bruno, but we weren't. We weren't. We've only played without him like 3 times. And that was one really good one. You know, we were controlling the game. It was calm. It was composed. It was in possession. It was good. It was all of that. There were signs that you can have a team that way, but we've never tried it. We've never tried it. It was one of my favorite performances, one of the only bright points in that season. All right, so you guys voted for Lissandro. Nice. This lineup is ending up a lot more similar to what I picked than I thought it would end up being. People seem to be really fed up. I'm not even influencing the votes, aside from ranting about Bruno, which again, I apologize. I apologize for being so negative about it. I'm very upset, you know? I'm very upset. And then there's Grimsby. Do you think it was because of Bruno that Grimsby happened? Like, do people genuinely think it was because of no Bruno that Grimsby happened? Like, actually. Like, watch the game, though. You know what I mean? It's one data point. The reason we lost that game was Onana and Fredrickson, to be quite honest. The reason we conceded twice was Onana and Fredrickson. Just to be clear. That was 90% of the problem in that game. I'm not going to pile on Fredrickson as a young player. He was completely overwhelmed in that game, and Onana tossed it into his net twice. That's why we lost. That's it. We don't have to overthink it beyond that, you know? On my screen, it showed Lissandro was above it, but maybe there was a vote at the last second. You know what I mean? We win with... Okay. We win with Lamens against Grimsby. We win Lamens against Grimsby. That's for sure. All right, Delict. Right center back. My point is, it's not that like we're a better team without Bruno. It's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying that we can't. I'm just tired of living and dying by it. That's all. And there's a point we need to like figure this out, man. There's just a point we need to figure it out. There's a point we have to sort it out. We have to figure out how to like take that next step. You know, it's not going to be this, you know, and again, it's just, yeah, like I said, my frustration is that every game you could pretty much just flip a coin. Are we going to win? Is Bruno going to be good today? Is Bruno going to be bad today? And that's going to be about 90% of whether or not we win or lose. It's going to be about 90%. And that's a testament to the impact that he has. My issue is that with his age and everything, those bad moments are getting more and more common. And it's hurting us. It may even be detracting more and more. Like, there's a lot of games that I want to see Cunha and Bumo, these guys, pick up the ball, you know, touch it. Not everything runs through Bruno. I want to see them be more influential. You know? I want to see those guys take the reins of the game over that. All right. So this is your team. This is the team you guys have picked. Interesting. It's actually way closer to mine than I thought. I put Shaw out wide and went with Lissandro in the back, but otherwise I think it's identical. Yeah, look at that. I thought this was going to be very, very different. I thought my team was going to be very different to yours today, but this is your team. This is your team. I said, fuck it, let's go with Luke Shaw out wide and let's put Lissandro in the back, but otherwise that's it, you know? It's not going to happen, but I like your team. So we're still getting some unity, some chat and I unity on this subject right now, fortunately. So that's good. At least we can still agree on that. But I just want to see something different, man. I'm just, it's hard to put into words what I'm trying to say on it, because it all just comes across. You know, I think people are so caught up on, like, you know, hate or, you know, making things these personal anti or pro player agenda type of things. It's not what I'm talking about, man. I'm not talking about that at all. All my votes were weird, which is how I know I'm annoyed with this team. Exactly, Lexi. Exactly. That's how I felt. Like, I was looking at it and I was like, ugh. And I put somebody there and I was like, ugh. And I put somebody there and I was like, what? Fuck it, man. I was just so irritated. But my point on the whole discussion, which is hard to verbalize, is that it's not like just, you know, there's people who've said Bruno's never been a good player. Bruno's always been shit. He's always been a problem. I don't agree with any of that. It's not what I'm saying. That's not where I'm at all. But I do think like this happened last year, you know, and it's happening this year. We can't have half a season of inconsistent Bruno dictating our results. It's getting worse. And he was in the 10 during that period as well. You know, he started off last season, the first 9-10 games under Ten Hag and Europa games in the 10, and he was shit at the start of last season. Absolutely shit. And he got better in the second half of the year under Amorim and in Europe especially. But we can't keep doing this. Like, we just can't keep doing this. You know? If Bruno was a squad player rotating in and out and all of that, like, cool. I'd be happy with it. But not as the most influential player in the team. It just, we can't have those kinds of inconsistencies. It's the heartbeat of the team. You know, if the heartbeat of the team is inconsistent, then the team's going to be inconsistent. It's hard to move past that. We don't have proper replacements. You're totally correct. And that's why, Phil, I'm hugely like, just do something in January. We have to, because It's impossible to predict where United are going to finish by the end of the season because of these inconsistencies. Everything we can talk about can be true. We can look at the good signs and the good stats and the good this and the good that, but it can all be gone in a moment, like we saw against Everton, where they can just not play football, and that's it. They can just not play football. You know? They can. And then none of it matters. None of it means anything. They can just not show up. I don't give a shit about tactics and systems and things when you're playing against 10 men. That setup should have been able to beat Everton with 11 at home. It should have been able to beat Everton at 10 with home. I don't care. When they don't show up, it's all bets are off, and that still happens too much. That's what bothers me. So anyway, yeah, but you're correct. It is on Ineos. Well, it's on the recruitment team and the ownership and Ineos and everybody. Add somebody, at least one significant player in January, and give us that push forward. So we'll see. Meantime, as we roll into Sunday, I'm worried, but I'll be hopeful. Anyway, I'm going to end it there. It's been a long one. Thank you for hanging out with me again today. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this. Please make sure to drop a like on a video on your way out. I'll be back tomorrow to kind of run through the results of the day, things like that as well, and see where we're at as we head into Sunday, and any other things that come forward before our game early Sunday. Early Sunday, will not be there with the pre-match because it's 5 a.m., so I'll be there for the game, and then I will be there afterwards as well. Okay, thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate you all. Have a good rest of your day. See you later.